All right, hey guys, welcome back to the Emlyn in the Mix podcast. This is season 2, episode 41. Boom! Nah, I don't know what I'm doing. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you see I'm going crazy. It is the calm before the storm. This week we don't have a feature product, but we are going to talk about the brand new Macs that were announced and what they can do for you in the music world. If you want to skip to the end of this podcast, you're more than welcome to do that, but I guarantee you're going to miss out on some incredible little products we're going to talk about on the podcast today. Yeah, this week when I say calm before the storm, there wasn't really, other than that huge technology news coming from Apple, which we're going to talk about how that relates to music, the music world, music technology world. Other than that, there wasn't really anything massive in the audio and music world that got released in this last week. And I say it's the calm before the storm because as we head towards the end of October, you know what comes up. We've got the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, and I'm sure that these companies are holding back before they just bombard us with specials and perhaps new products. I could be completely wrong. Maybe 2021 is over and we're not going to see anything new and massive and exciting get released besides sound packs and so forth. Although Slate Digital keeps giving us some really interesting, cryptic information about a new plugin that's going to come out next week. So we'll probably talk about that on the podcast next week. But anyway, welcome to Emlyn in the Mix, season 2. Episode 41. Welcome back to all my regular listeners. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube as well, thank you so much for joining me there as well. And if you're new to this podcast, then what is it about? Well, this YouTube video as well. I get confused. It's like blur the line between podcasts and YouTube videos. Basically both at this point. If you're new, what is this about? It's about new music gear, software, hardware. We cover it on the channel. I love talking to you guys about this sort of stuff. It's my passion. And yeah, that's what it is. Emlyn in the Mix. Now, if you do enjoy this and you want to support the channel and the podcast, you can do that now. I'm going to put a link in the description on this podcast. You can buy me a coffee. Yes, that's right. How do I do this podcast with so much energy? I drink coffee. And now, if you want to support this podcast, it sounds really weird, but just click the link in the podcast description and in this YouTube video to buy me a coffee and support what I do. I would really appreciate it. It keeps the content coming. Your funds go directly back into this podcast so that I can review more gear. I can look at hardware and software. And if you've been a regular listener and you want to just say thank you, then please hit the description and give some support. Love, peace, that's what it's all about here on the podcast. I don't know where I'm going. Let's get stuck into the news, David. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, so the first product we're going to look at here, this actually got announced 2 weeks ago. I couldn't fit it on the podcast last week because we were jam-packed last week. But this is Claro from Sonnox, and actually it was really weird. I felt like I'd already covered this, and if I have, I'm so sorry, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. So what is Claro? So whether you're a bedroom producer or a Grammy-winning pro, you want to take control to develop your own musical voice, Claro will empower you to make informed musical decisions in a unique and intuitive way. So Claro is a comprehensive EQ plugin that serves the production process from composition to final mix. So it has 3 distinct views and progressively adding deeper insight and precision to prevent mud, clutter, and harshness, helping you blend your tracks into a clear and balanced mix. Now you're probably thinking, Emlyn, not another EQ plugin. Nah, I'm just kidding. I do this joke all the time. It's probably not funny anymore. But look, this isn't just an EQ plugin. As you heard from the title there, you're going from your mix. Yes, you are EQing, but it's also taking you through all the final stages to your mastering. So let's have a quick look at it here. If you're watching on the YouTubes, you can see it on the screen. I'll do my best to describe it for you guys there on the podcast. So let's get straight down to the nitty gritty here. So there's 3 distinct views. Okay, so Claro sustains focus and accelerates your workflow through 3 distinct views. Now, what are these 3 distinct views, you ask? Well, the first is the produce view. Offers a fast creative EQ that actively promotes your musical creativity while removing unnecessary distractions and complex technical terminology. We hate that. We hate that on the podcast too, just by the way. No, just kidding. Tweak view then opens up more correctional possibilities, providing you with our cleanest, most flexible filters, and real-time analysis adapts to your moves and helps to identify problematic resonance. And finally, use the mix view to understand and assemble your mix. Every track is simultaneously displayed for you to prioritize, explore interactions, and swiftly address frequency collisions between competing tracks. So a little bit like, I know iZotope has their Neutron plugin, I believe it is, that does uses artificial intelligence to sort of work out what the different frequencies on each track is. And it looks like Sonnox is going in a similar direction with Claro. But I have to say, just looking at the GUI here, and we haven't played with this yet on Emlyn in the mix, but looking at these GUI pictures here, this looks really nice. So you can produce your tone, you can produce your width, you can tweak, and it has that surgical precision EQ going on here. And then mix, so you can view all Claro's instances across your project and see how the audio interacts. So that's very cool. Drag and drop tracks to explore collective EQ moves across any combination of tracks from the same window. And yellow highlights indicates where each track in your mix competes against or masks your chosen reference track. So this is good, like if you're doing vocals, for example, and you've got like some too much melody lead going on and the vocals and the lead are just clashing. I've heard mixes a lot actually where vocals are just not sitting out of the mix. Now, one of my specialties, and if I am to blow my own trumpet, is I actually am very good at getting the vocals to sit above the mix, and sometimes maybe too good. I don't know if that's a good thing, but sometimes too much actually, but I am good at getting them to pop out. And this plugin sounds like it's going to make it, sounds like it's going to make it a lot easier. Let's have a quick look at its features here. Just gonna have a sip of my coffee. So, Claro's EQ is highly flexible, with each of its 26 bands offering a clean and musical sounding EQ that resembles the well-loved Neve types, their modern derivatives, and the SSL-G series. That's pretty banging. And if you've used Sonnox plugins, you know how good they sound. You got left, right, mid-side mono or stereo channel processing, a wide 20 hertz, my goodness, you can't even hear 20 hertz, come on, 40 kilohertz range. Although you do want to surgically cut out because somehow you do hear them. I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, go figure. Variable Q, including resonance and overshot on the cut and shelving filters, variable slopes on all band shapes, and Claro's automation is smooth and artifact free. So I guess you need to hear it to really know more, but there you go. That's Claro from Sonnox. Brand new plugin there to check out. Don't take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself. I believe they have demos here on Sonnox. If you've tried, yeah, there you go. 15-day free demo. Check it out if that sounds interesting to you and you want to get your mixes sounding good. Let's move along to our next product here. Comes to us from Audio Thing. I love Audio Thing. I absolutely love their plugins. Are so affordable. And I like it that I can show you stuff that's affordable on this podcast. The whole point of this podcast, and I've reinstated this many times, but the whole point of this podcast is not to make you want to go out and buy a bunch of gear. I really hope that all this podcast does is bring to you inspiration and knowledge to know what is happening in the music world and music technology world as we move further and further into the future here, running towards the end of 2021. Perhaps you're listening to this podcast in the future and you're like, wow, what was so exciting for them back in that time? Well, now you can see what it is. And it is, of course, the Orb from Audio Thing. So what is the Orb? So the Orb is a format filter plugin. So the Orb is a format filter plugin that simulates the characteristics of the human voice. So featuring a set of 3 bandpass filters, the Orb can transform any sound into a vowel-like format filter sound. With 3 LFOs, you can modulate the vowel, the emphasis, resonance of the formats, and the drift, which can shift up and down the frequencies of each format. And you can also create your own set of vowels by changing names and frequency of each vowel format. Let's have a quick listen to this, because it sounds really good. Here we go. We're going to play it back for you. Audio Thing. That sounds like a ringtone. All right, audio thing. I see what you did there. Very nice indeed. Look, if you like that vowel format sound, you can hear in that demo we just played back there, really giving you those oohs and those ahs sounds, and it sounds brilliant. And it was very nice. If you're watching on YouTube there, you got to see a nice little video from Audio Thing, piecing together expensive hardware, playing their very, very cheap software. And I don't mean to downgrade it by saying cheap. I just mean it's very affordable. It's $29 USD at the moment, intro price. If you like that sound, just go out and get it. So the orb, each sector of the orb represents a vowel. It's possible to change the vowel for each sector by clicking on the vowel name. And the distance from the center of the orb to the dot represents the amount of emphasis, resonance for each format filter. So the angle of each sector represents the amount of drift, which is a valve in hertz that will be added or subtracted from each vowel format. And you can customize your vowels as well. Look, if that's the sound for you, then definitely go check it out. And it is, again, a very affordable plugin. But as I reinstated at the start, I'm not here to just try and sell you things. Also, there's no kickback for any of these products that I review on the podcast. I just think they're awesome. Sometimes I do get support from different software companies. They reach out to me and I get to show you guys cool new products. And that's when we have featured products, of course. But you guys know that already if you're regular listeners. Let's move along to the next piece of news. Oh, what is it? It's the IK Multimedia group buy. Again, no kickback from IK Multimedia. I just did a bit of shout out love for these guys. It ended up being a theme for this podcast. We've now talked about it for nearly the last 2 months, every week on the podcast for like the last 5 podcasts. It was just an incredible thing they did. And again, I'm so sorry if you listen to this podcast after October 2021, because this group buy will no longer exist after that time. In fact, by the time it's next week's podcast, this group buy will essentially be ending. So they did reach their final tier. They did get the 25. We knew they were going to get there. We spoke about this in last week's podcast. IK Multimedia is pleased to announce that they've finally reached their final tier of the group buy with 25 software titles for the price of 1. Now, this is amazing. If you, like me, love IK Multimedia software right now, or you've been thinking about getting IK Multimedia software, then now's the time, because you buy one, you're going to get 25 products for free. Incredible. There you have it, guys. I've spoken about this so much, I'm not going to talk about it any more than that. Move along. How is this happening, by the way? This next thing that we're going to talk about here, this is from Roli. They must just have a stockpile. They must have just made a bunch of sound packs at the start of the year. And then they're like, let's release one every week for the rest of the year. Because every week they've had a new sound pack and we've included it in the podcast. And that's because they're our friends at Roli. We love Roli. Roli has supported the channel in the past, and I got to shout out some love to them. And not only that, they're my friend or our friends on the podcast, they make quality sound packs, as you're going to hear. So here we have a new sound pack. It is the OSCar, I believe. Yeah, OSCar sound pack. Very simple, simply named. Recreates the sound of the cult classic with OSCar. And Equator 2 and Roli Studio sound pack featuring over 70 multi-sampled instruments drawn from the iconic synth, the OSCar. And it includes all the rugged analog charm and digital lo-fi tones of the 1980s original, and now updated for the 21st century with, boom, expressive power of Equator 2. If you're watching on the screen there, I'll just blown up a picture of what the OSCar was or what it looked like. A retro synth. If you have a look at this synth, if you're looking on the video there, it's a very rugged looking synth. So it looks like you could drop that on the stage, 100 times and it would still be working. It's built like a tank. Anyway, if you're listening on the podcast and you haven't yet checked out the Emlyn in the Mix YouTube channel, please do yourself a favor. You get to watch these videos for nothing, by the way, might I add. Unless you want to do that buy me a coffee program, of course. But that's up to you. That's completely up to you if you want to support this channel and what we do here. But definitely if you haven't subscribed to Emlyn in the Mix, just do yourself a favor. Do it right now. You can watch these videos on there. Again, thank you for listening on the podcast. All right, let's play a demo. Here it is, the OSCar. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's 10 minutes of demo here. Let's play a minute or so. Here we go. Let's live it up. Oh, that filter. I really like this. Oh, yeah. All right, one more demo. Here we go. Arpeggiation. All right, I think we get the idea. Damn, that sounds good. So you get the awesome sound of the OSCar. I'm just going to turn it down there in the background. It is still playing, of course. Yeah, you get the awesome sound of the OSCar, but you get the bloody... you get the freaking using Equator 2 or the Roli Studio to play with it. It's awesome. And again, using in the demo some deliciously expensive hardware to show off their amazing sounding software. Why not? If you got it, flaunt it, hey? That's what I say. There you go, guys. I like that sound pack a lot. It is available right now from Roli. I don't know what the price is on this, actually. It doesn't seem to have it here. Anyway, go check it out if you like that. It may be of interest for you. Actually, is it free? No, let's have a look. Let's get you a price. Come on. You came to Emlyn Mix. You want to know. Is it worth it? Let's have a look. $40. I mean, if that's the sound that's a good price. I thought it was going to be $100 actually, so I'm happy with that price indeed. Check it out. OSCar by Roli. Thank you, Roli, again. Shout outs to Roli. Good job. Good job. Pat on the back. No. All right, let's move on to our next one. This is interesting. This is a new piece of software. If you're a Roland TR user, you're going to love this piece of news. So it's this just got dropped, graphical editor librarian software for the TR8S and the TR6S rhythm performers. This will be a huge sigh of relief for those users because probably they haven't been able to really expand upon the possibilities of what their hardware can do, and now they can. So representing the apex of the Roland TR line, the TR8S and TR6S are the most iconic drum machines to date and forward-thinking. performance-tuned instruments unlike any other. The free TR Editor significantly enhances the workflow of these hands-on machines, providing an easy-to-use graphical interface with expanded visual control and organizational tools that further amplify the TR's creative possibilities. So you can see it here if you're looking on the YouTubes, but more or less what this means, you get a beautiful editor here. Just zoom in here so you can see. And you can even program your drums, and you can go through all your presets, save presets, upload new ones. So let's just go through some of the features. Standalone graphical editor and librarian for the TR8S and TR6S. Available for macOS and Windows. Librarian function for managing patterns and kits. On-screen motion editing. Undo and redo for quick revisions. Rename patches, kits, and projects quickly from your computer screen. And FX tab for accessing all instruments and MFX parameters. Hardware meets software. Enhance your TR workflow with a fluid on-screen editor that eliminates the need for menu diving and page scrolling on the hardware. Access a wide range of parameters and controls across 5 easy access tabs, and organize all your sounds via the breakout library and workflow. TR Sound Design. TR Editor helps you nimbly design your signature kits and sounds via an intuitive graphical interface. Draw parameters, motion data with a quick flourish for instant results. Access kit and instrument parameters on a single screen for swift adjustment, and tweak complete FX parameters that are automatically set to your FX section. Don't like what you did? TR Editor has you covered, and both undo and redo for quick revisions and comparison ideas. And you can get super organized. So TR Editor's library window assists with organizing and managing patterns and kits. Access the complete TR library at once and quickly filter various instruments, categories, and sound engine types to customize your sound. You can also rename hardware patches, kits, and projects quickly and easily using your computer keyboard. This is really cool. Look, again, if you have one of these TR8S or 6S machines, this is totally for you. And if you've been thinking about getting one of the TR series, then this is, of course, another reason why it'd be a good idea to get one. The TR Editor there from Roland. Another piece of news from Roland. This is quite big, actually, and this is free. This next piece of news. Very exciting. This was actually a new announcement, software announcement that came out in the last week for iOS. It could be for Android as well. Let's see. I only saw it was for iOS. I think it is for Android as well. Let's just check it out. So this is the Zentracker from Roland. Yes. What is the Zentracker, you ask? Well, it's a recorder. It's a pocket recorder in your phone, audio recording app. Download this right now. It's completely free. Now, I haven't played with it yet, although it does remind me a lot of one of their other iOS apps that we have spoken about on this YouTube channel, which the name just completely jumps out of my brain just as we're talking about it. I don't know where I'm going with that one. All right, so your everyday carry recording studio. Zentracker takes the complexity out of recording music. So turning your mobile device into a handy and intuitive multi-track studio. So whether you're a singer or instrumentalist, Zentracker puts the focus on getting ideas down while they're fresh with an easy yet powerful way to record, edit, and mix your music anywhere. So you can try it for free. You can download. If you're looking here on the YouTubes, you'll see beautiful, big, bright GUI there on your iPhone or your tablet. So it features easy recording, editing, and mixing for Android and iOS. There you go. Android and iOS devices. You're not left out, Android. You're here. You're staying with us on this one. Unlimited audio tracks, intuitive touch-friendly controls, 2 tracks effects, and 2 sounds per channel. Mixer with 16 audio effects. That's pretty cool. Audio editing with reverse time stretch and more. Timeline automation, track freeze, save and share with Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive, and over 200 included audio loops. That's pretty cool there. And you can join the Roland Collab for access for a full set of features, more features, stem export. You got AUV3 plugin, which is the plugin support for iOS. Full access to all effects, 8-track effects slots, unlimited track sends, access to over 20 loop packs, 1 GB plus, and access to additional Roland Cloud mobile apps. All right, just going to read a little bit back here from the marketing here on the Roland website. The the Roland.com page. So recording music doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't need a complex home studio full of expensive gear to do it. Zentracker is a simple to use and designed to capture your inspired moments with a friendly pick up and go approach to recording and mixing. So your studio is never further than your smartphone or tablet, and all of your recording projects can be accessed with one simple tap of your finger. Looks very easy to use too. The GUI looks really nice, especially if you have a tablet. It's nice and big for you. So the best studio is the one you have with you. So Zentracker turns your device in your pocket into a professional level multi-track recorder with advanced audio production tools. It can be your musical scratch pad or the starting point of a professional production, or both. Quickly record new ideas, finish complete songs, or make Zentracker part of your creative workflow by exporting tracks and stems to use in other DAWs. And you can save your projects in Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive for easy sharing and collaboration with friends, bandmates, and other artists. Anyway, you get the idea. It is a little recording studio in your pocket, and it looks great. The power of Zentracker here from Roland. And if you want to, you can upgrade, of course, to Roland Cloud, where you will have even more features and functions of this powerful little handy device. But try the free version, see if you like it, and if it's working in your workflow, then it might be worth doing that upgrade. All right, let's move along. This is our last piece of news, and this is the big piece of news, and this is, of course, if you saw the title for this podcast or this YouTube channel, this is, of course, what we want to talk about today, because this is huge news. I know it's been covered all over YouTube already and everywhere, and it was trending in technology news and so forth, but it is, of course, you've already heard about it. You've already heard about these new M1 chips for the Apple computers. We spoke about when they first got announced on this podcast last year, the M1 chip was all the rage, and there was so much excitement for the future and potentiality, especially in the music sector, music technology sector, music world, music recording, whatever the heck you want to call it, right? Because those chips, they were getting phenomenal performance, and they weren't pro versions. They were just aimed at your regular, computer users or Apple computer users. So for the professionals like myself and the creatives out there, we were wondering, is there going to be a computer that comes out that caters, using the M1 chip, but caters to the professionals, caters to the professional creators? And Apple, of course, they announced it this last week. They've got the M1 Pro chip, M1 Pro chip, and the M1 Max chip now, which has been announced. And, it really is, when we look at these two computers, we see that they really are being marketed, or they've been created towards the creator, the, video creators, the music creators, those sort of people. They're really heavily catered towards that type of person. But we haven't really seen any video or any discussion really, and I hope this is perhaps the first one, but it may not be, because of course we're getting our information from musictech.net. It may be the first podcast where we discuss this on a music level, like for the music creators, because that's what we want to focus here on the podcast. Emlyn in the Mix, not about me. No, it's not about Emlyn. This is just the title of the podcast. It's about you guys. I want to do this podcast for you guys. Of course I do. And the information I share on here is just my opinions and my thoughts, but let's discuss how this could help you in the studio. How could this better your music? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's unnecessary. Maybe it's too much power. So the information we're getting here is from musictech.net. So shout out to musictech.net. If you want great music technology news, you want to read it off your computer, you don't like listening to me, or you don't like listening to podcasts about music technology, then go over, check out musictech.net, because they have all the greatest and latest new information there. So shout outs and thank you for letting me check this out. But if you like to listen to my smooth vocal tones, this is the place where we're going to talk about it. So Apple has announced the exciting new iterations of the MacBook Pro line, along with, this is pretty exciting, Logic Pro 10.7. So that Logic Pro announcement sort of, because this MacBook Pro information is so big, Logic Pro just sort of like, it got swept under the rug a little bit, in my opinion. It just wasn't the big news, but there's some exciting stuff actually in Logic Pro, which I'd love to cover here today on the podcast just quickly. But anyway, 10.7 was announced, and you had the 3, of course. So the new MacBook Pros in particular have been packed to the brim with features that have elevated the power provided to music producers and content creators, such as spatial audio mixing. That's probably the most exciting thing for Logic Pro. And the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips expanded ports, 6-speaker sound system, and more. So this is what we're talking about here. So Apple Silicon M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros. So music producers will find these MacBook Pros particularly tempting. So they boast 3 studio quality mics with a 60% lower noise floor compared to their 2020 predecessors. Now they come with a 6-speaker, this is pretty interesting for a laptop. They come with a 6-speaker sound system comprising 2 tweeters and 4 force cancelling woofers. Wow, for 20% more bass, making it the best audio system ever in a notebook. That needs to be heard to be believed, I guess. So the sound system also supports spatial audio. This is the cool sort of new thing that that's becoming more prevalent, spatial mixing and spatial audio, making use of that 6-speaker setup, which I find fascinating. Like if I was mixing spatial audio, I really don't think I'm going to want to use the laptop speakers, but if they're claiming that they're as good as they are, then maybe you can do it just with that laptop, which is an incredible upgrade in itself. Anyway, so while most will still want to revert to their headphones. Exactly. That's where I was going. For extra clarity with mixing, having a reference for consumers who will listen aloud on their MacBook Pro will surely prove useful. Plus, given Apple's huge spatial audio announcement in Logic Pro 10.7, the sound system may come in handy. That's right. So most observers were caught off guard by the announcement of the M1 Max. That's right. We only thought maybe they're just this M1 Pro or this new iteration of the M1 chip, but then they just were like, yeah, let's have an M1 Max as well. It's just double that power that you just got of the M1 Pro. And it is a supersized M1 chip that outstrips and outpaces the performance of the M1 Pro powered MacBook. But that's not to say the M1 Pro is any slouch in performance either. That's right, the M1 Pro is very powerful in itself as well. The M1 Pro features a 5nm processor with 33.7 billion transistors, powered by a 10-core CPU that includes 8 high-performance cores and 2 high-efficiency cores with 16 GPU cores. MacBook Pro M1 Pro, wow, is that really what? Yeah, it is what it's called. Jeez, that's a bit of a tongue twister. I didn't realize to send. The MacBook Pro M1 Pro is touted to offer triple the bandwidth performance of the previous generation M1 powered MacBooks. Now, content creators will be excited to know the M1 Pro offers several high-end codecs and the muscle power to handle the most grueling of video editing demands. Plus, it also introduces ProRes support, Apple's own codec format, and reportedly produces stunning HD quality at SD file sizes. That's pretty damn exciting. That's like when MP3s got announced, although I remember the first iterations of MP3s were pretty horrible at like 96 kilohertz or something like that. Anyway, which video editors and mountain of hard drives will breathe a sigh of relief to hear. Can you hear them? The hard drives are sighing with relief. Sorry. The M1 Max, however, is undoubtedly the star of the show, and Apple claims it will double the performance of the M1 Pro and is almost 7 times more powerful than the 2020's M1 powered MacBooks. That's insane. So it's sporting 400 gigabits a second. I can't even speak because there's so much information. Of memory bandwidth up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory, 57 billion transistors, and a 10-core CPU and 32-core GPU. The announcement of the chip was one that was absent from many of the speculations surrounding this particular announcement. No doubt the CPU load of intense Logic Pro workflows will be somewhat elevated with the new M1 Max and M1 Pro chips. All right, here we go. Here we're getting into the Logic Pro stuff here. So Apple, before we get to that though, Apple also seems to have relented on its push to eliminate ports from its devices here, as an HDMI port, a Thunderbolt 4 port, and an SD card reader is now situated on the right side of the machine. This is massive news, like especially for someone like me who creates quite a bit of YouTube content. Having that SD card slot is awesome because I hate having to put my dongle in and get the SD card. I know that sounds ridiculous, but actually it's very annoying. And while the aesthetic of the portless MacBook is undoubtedly appealing, reverting to more ports is very welcome indeed, given the number of cables that need to be plugged into a MacBook when producing music. All right, so let's just quickly look at Logic Pro 10.7. If you're looking on the video there, you can see it pretty much looks like the same as it has since Logic Pro X. So perhaps one of the most exciting features bundled into the announcement was the Logic Pro 10.7 update. So Apple's own music production app now comes with a set of tools of producing spatial audio, allowing producers to place sounds in a virtual recording room to give their music an immersive three-dimensional sound, which can then be saved as Dolby Atmos music files. This is incredible because if you were thinking about getting into Dolby Atmos or you want to create Dolby Atmos, now you can do it in this Logic update. And in fact, the Logic update is available right now, even if you have a current Apple computer, running Big Sur or Monterey. Is that the one before Big Sur? Anyway, those will support the new update for Logic Pro. So definitely go check that out if you want to just get stuck straight into spatial recording. So new mixer and pan controls have been introduced to take advantage of this new feature. And 13 of Logic Pro's native plugins are getting new functionality to interact with the possibility of designing audio in a three-dimensional space. Space Designer, Limiter, Loudness Meter, and Tremolo were named as some of the plugins that have been updated with new spatial audio features. Very exciting. Now, I've never actually mixed in spatial audio. It might be worth my while to give it a shot. I guess I could do it on headphones. I don't know. I don't even have a Dolby Atmos situation going on in my studio here. So anyway, in line with the raw power on hand, Apple also says that producers will be able to use 3 times as many plugins for recording on the M1 Max. That's a fairly vague number, but you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who wouldn't want more power to process their audio. Yes, I'm one of those people. I want more power. I'm currently running the 2018 MacBook Pro. It's the i9 chip. I think it's 10 or 8 cores. It might even be 12 cores. It was basically the beast that you could get. It was like the mother beast that you could get in 2018. And right now the fans are going, you probably can't hear it on the podcast because I have noise cancellation, that sort of stuff, but it's noisy. I really don't like this laptop, particularly that it just runs so hot. Those Intel chips run incredibly hot. So the thing that excites me most about this M1 chip is that you're not going to have those fans going off. Barely. They said in the announcement the fans barely turn on because the chips don't get crazily hot, being that they're all on one chip. The silicon's doing all the work in one chip. So do we read this yet? Additionally, no. Logic Pro users will get access to a library of beats, loops, and samples. Check this out. This is pretty cool. From a plethora of artists that include Boys Noise, Mark Letelieri, I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know why I'm singing it. Mark Ronson, Oak Felder, Soul Action, Take a Day Trip, Tom Misch, and Track Girl. Total of 2,800 new loops. That in itself is an update worthy. Getting 50 new kits and 120 new patches are available for use, royalty free. Boom! Just download it now, start making some tracks, eh? Adding tons of value for those buying into Apple's new vision for music production. And if reading all this is making your mind race through your sample library and possibilities, Logic Pro 10.7 is available as a free update. There you go, boom. For existing users, while new users can buy the door for $199 USD. Listen, that's a lot cheaper than when I brought into Logic Pro. I remember it was like $800 back in the day. So you're getting it for $200. Don't you be complaining about that price. It is, it's an amazing DAW. It's a very old school sort of linear approach to making music, but it works if that's how you like making music. And I'm sure with these M1 chips, it's going to feel very fluid because I've found it in recent years. I found Logic was a little bit cumbersome, especially if you compare it to something like Ableton Live. I'm an Ableton Live user, but maybe I'll be coming back and sharing the love with Logic Pro. Who knows? So note that you can still use the spatial audio tools if you're not working on an M1 Max or M1 Pro MacBook Pro, but Apple claims that doing so will offer unprecedented performance. That's right. Well, if they're saying the M1 Max is 7 times more powerful than the M1 from 2020, that mind blown, because I haven't even experienced these M1 chips. And apparently they, excuse the French, but they shit all over these Intel i9 chips. They just do. So there you go, guys. Is it the computer for you? If you're not a Mac user, maybe not. If you are a Mac user, yes, I can see how these are very tempting. I'm just going to put it out there. I've actually ordered one. We're going to get one here on the channel, so we'll be able to check that out, look at it, and see how it runs. It is a very, very exciting time in the world of not only just technology, but music and audio technology. Now, I know these things aren't cheap. let's have a quick look at the specs and price here just on the Apple website. There you go, starting, and this is the American website. These are in US dollars. $2,499. This is for the 14-inch, or starting at $2,000 for the 14-inch 8-core. The 10-core Pro is starting at $2,500 USD. So these are not cheap laptops. These are incredibly expensive laptops. You can bump it up to a 16-inch, and there you go, boom, $3,500. But, you know, look, if you make your money, you're a content creator, you're making your money from your laptop, you'll make that back. Look, it really comes down to the individual. If you're just a hobbyist, or you're just playing around, or you don't have the money, don't go out and get one. It's just too much. You can get incredibly powerful Apples on the secondhand market, and especially now, you'll be able to buy one of those older, you know, look, I know I was a little bit critical of the i9 chip. Yes, I still am a little bit, but they're powerful. They are powerful, man. I'm using one here, and they're powerful. They're really nice. Anyway, look, that's going to do it for today's podcast. I hope the discussion was good. I hope that you could see some of the benefits of what this M1 chip is going to do, especially if we just look at the future. We look maybe a couple of years down the tracks. This is just the first generation of these M1 chips, so it's a really exciting prospect. This is like, honestly, this is a new era in technology, and this is exactly the same as when Apple went from their G5 processors to the Intel chips. That was a huge leap, and now we're seeing a new generation from Intel to their own Apple Silicon M1 chips. And for content creators and music makers alike, this is a super exciting news. All right, hope I've left that on a great note for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you love the podcast and you want to support it, you love this YouTube channel and you want to support it, buy me a coffee. Link is in the description below on the podcast and on the YouTube video. And thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back next week, of course, because you do not want to miss next week's episode. You do not want to miss the week after that's episode as well. The next 2 weeks should be bonkers. Look, I could be wrong, but I'm touting they're going to be totally bonkers because we're going to see lots of specials and hopefully some new announcements. Hardware, please. Native Instruments, you know, I'm looking at you. And all right, guys, with that, I'm out. Thank you for joining me. I'm Emlyn from Emlyn in the Mix, Season 2, Episode 41. The podcast just keeps going. Thanks so much for joining me. Peace out. Boom.